everyone, welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Look, I have some excellent guests with us. First, he's a filmmaker, and he has a movie out right now that I had the pleasure of seeing, and it's called Lost in the Night. I have with us Scott Hand. Scott, welcome to the Horror Room.
All right, it's great to be here, Travis. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you for sending me over the movie, man. I had a great time watching it.
Oh, I'm glad. And I hope you'll enjoy watching my comedy, Five Losers on a Line, when you get to it.
Oh, I'm going to be watching that. By the way, also, Scott is also starring in the movie as well. He's also starring in the movie.
Yeah, writer, producer, director, actor, both films, as well as my feature film, Lycaon, which we're trying to get distribution for.
He's wearing all the damn hats. And then my second guest, listen, he is a radio host. He has a radio show that's called Attitude Era Live Monday. I have with us the Icon. Icon, welcome to the Horror Room.
Well, hey, the pleasure is all yours.
All right, so listen, let's start off. For everybody who hasn't seen Lost in the Night, Scott, I'm going to start off with you. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it really started a long time ago because I grew up here in New Jersey, and our horror lore is the Jersey Devil. And I remember as a kid going into this artist's studio, and he had this painting, this weird painting of this monster. And as a kid, I was afraid of monsters. And I asked him, I said, "What is that?" He said, "It's the Jersey Devil." And he started to tell me about Mother Leeds' 13th child, and the child was deformed, and it took on wings, and it flew out the window, and it was haunting, the farms and the cattle and everything, and it would creep into the kids' windows at night and look in at them as they slept and all. So this scared me, and I thought about this. And then, I think it was 1981, 20th Century Fox was supposed to do a movie about the Jersey Devil. And it was in the local paper, and then it never. So I wanted to do my debut as a writer, producer, director, something with the Jersey Devil. So I came up with an idea for a feature film, but I didn't have the money for that. So I cut it down to practically nothing, and we made a 30-minute movie, with suspense, And we cut it together. We shot it over the course of, I think, seven shooting days for that little movie. And, we had to go back, a couple of times too, and then we got it together and we got it out and we completed it. And, like anything, it takes a few years for your first picture to do anything to get you to your next picture, And luckily, my next picture ended up being my feature film debut, Lycaon, which is a werewolf movie. And, that's feature length. That's like 97. So then, to set that up, I had this idea for this comedy from all the years I worked in motels. So I wrote this little script called Five Losers on a Line, and I got together with some people that I knew, and basically went back to Lost in the Night, and we made another little 30-minute movie for, almost no money, and we've got 3 pictures, and I've written several screenplays, and this past year I got lucky. I got my first commission screenplay. So
Nice.
I was paid to write a script for some independent film producers.
Now, Scott, so I have a question. Is it tough when it comes to making a short film, Lost in the Night is 30 minutes long. Is it tough to try to get that beginning, middle, end, and that character development in such a short time frame?
Yeah, well, see, the neat thing with a short film is when I was trained, 30 years ago to write scripts, we have your act 1, your act 2, your act 3. You got your beginning, middle, your end. With a short movie, there's no middle. There's no middle. So, the easiest thing for me is to come up with the beginning and the end. I always have the problem finding the centerpiece. So, for me personally, the short films are really easy to be it's like if somebody hands me a few bucks and says, make a short film out of something, I can usually do that pretty quick, So right now I'm scripting a movie, one that for another new independent film producer, and I'm going to direct it. I'm attached to it. We have our deck together and our business plan. I'm putting the script together, and then we're going to go out for the budget and all. And we've been having to go. I'll just say this: count on vampires.
Love it. Now, listen, I interview a lot of, no budget, low budget horror filmmakers. Now, when it comes to the screenwriting part, is it important to, when you're doing the screenwriting, to have that budget in mind so that you don't have fucking vampires shooting out of the sky?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I was lucky, my screenwriting goes back a while. All right, because like I said, I took my classes in the '90s. All right, so things were different then. And low budget movies were, 800,000 and above. Today you can make the movies for $20,000. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you won't have any real stars in it, but you can still make a good picture. For that. But best thing to do is, you got to have, if you're going to do it that way, you got to have some kind of a distribution in play, because otherwise, I'll be honest, I don't know that you're going to ever see your money. That's one of the things I tell people. In fact, it's funny. I lately, because of doing these podcast interviews, I get these out of nowhere new young people that want to make pictures, and they send me things. They say, "What do you think?" And I had one fellow send me this stuff, and I couldn't figure it out. He said, "Look," I said, you really got to make sure, you've got your beginning, your middle, your end if you're doing a feature length movie." I said, because right now I couldn't make heads or tails out of what he wrote. And, I think it's, me personally, the way I like to do a movie, I want to have a script. I want to have an idea of what I'm doing. I'm actually, I act as well, and I'm in other people's pictures. In fact, I'm at the end of shooting a movie called Segments of Joan. I think it's called The Journals of Homunculus. All right. And I play a villain in this. All right. I'm actually one of the bad guys in this picture. And this is an interesting one because I don't think anybody read a script. It's kind of like, we've been given, we've told about the roles and all that. We went on to it, and, everything's kind of like we're going to say it when it's all done. But the fellow I know doing it was the guy that did visual effects for Like
Now, Icon. How in the hell do you know Scott? How do you two know each other?
Well, it's actually an interesting story. Quick thing here. The one thing that he forgot, how he mentioned that his short film didn't have a middle. His film actually did have a middle, but it featured me and it got cut out. That's why there's no middle.
He's always the deleted middle, Travis. Always.
Yeah, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm like,
it's like Billy Crystal told me a long time ago. He said, "You're the icon now, but I bet in high school you were known as Pick Him Last."
This is why I have him on the comic.
Well, actually, back to your question. I actually I had Scott as a guest on my show, and we were talking about a movie that I still have a feeling that we're going to get that made eventually, called The Black Tent. And we had a lot of the actors that were going to be in the film on our show. And he had to set up a deal that the actors had to vote if I was going to be in the movie or not. And let's see, I must have sent 8 blank checks to get this done.
Yeah. Oh,
and
good for that.
It helps when you have a father who has 6 figures and in his checking account, and he wants you to get out of his house, so he'll send blank checks to anybody. That
must be fucking nice. That must be nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean,
I sent you the link to the IMDb page, Travis, for the Black Tent if you wanted to peek and ask about them. I sent that over.
Let me take a look at it.
And it's a great film, and as an independent film director, it takes budgeting, it takes funding, and eventually we're going to get that done. There's a couple cool things. He has a great actress, Alexis Baca, on there, and she was going to have a more of a role in the film, but when she read the 3 pages that featured the love scene between she and I, she ripped those right out. So that brought me down to 2 pages and her down to from 10 to 7. So there you go. apparently the tap dancing scene was a little too much.
Well,
This is-
Travis, I want to know, what do you call it? What if and when the black tent gets made? Be ready to see this man do a lot of tap dancing.
I definitely
Yeah.
want to see it. Now,
And I've been practicing my tap dancing. I've been standing on the sink, trying not to fall into it, but I'm good to go there.
now I got a personal opinion question to ask the both of you. I come
Yeah.
start with you. Why do you think nudity has been taken out of horror films?
Good question. Good question.
Um, Well, one, I think they realize that people are just going to and this is my opinion, of course. People are
Yeah.
just going to the movie just because of the nudity. They're not going to it for the story or the film itself. They just want to see TNA, you know. So I think that's the main reason. Although I think it's wrong, not having that in a horror film is wrong. I mean, if you're a fan of a horror film genre, no matter what it is, you're going to go see it whether there's TNA or no TNA. For instance, when I was a kid, I used to sneak up late at night and watch USA Up All Night, and they would cut that stuff out, so all I could see was a picture anyway. So yeah, I think that's why they're doing it, and it's a misdirected reason why they're taking it out.
Yeah, I think another thing could be too, and this is just a guess, is the fact that back in the time when we grew up, you didn't have such access to the internet like you did now. In fact, we didn't have any internet.
Yeah.
So all these porn sites and everything else would pop up all over the place. You didn't have that, so I think that may also be a reason why. That's a guess.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you don't have to have nudity in a horror movie to make a great horror movie.
No,
But
it all depends on the material that you're working with. Because I had one producer. This is an interesting one. There's still producers out there that want it. Just so that,
yeah,
in case you don't know, there are producers out there that if you go to work for them, they tell you, no, we need to have this in the movie. We want boobs here. We want butt there. We want sex here. And it's a possibility. They could tell you who they want, and if they're writing the check, there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. So I'll just tell you this quick. The scripts mostly I wrote before were on spec. And you know what that means. That means it's my story, my material, etc. And my mentor, Jim DeMuse, who passed away 3.5 years ago, would come in and have all these wonderful drawings. And I would tell him like stories and things, and he would say, well, let me show you this. And he'd have these very elaborate paintings. He was a great artist. He actually was the driving force behind the Brigantine Castle haunted attraction that was in Brigantine, New Jersey, and the haunted mansion that was in Long Branch, which, I can send you links to. You can see all that. I mean, Travis, this was amazing cutting edge stuff in the late 70s. Okay. But one of the things he and I would talk about was when we would talk about different movies, he would say, some movies need to have the nudity and some don't. And I'd say, yeah. And I would tell him why, but he would say, the best place to have it, if you're going to have it, make sure it has to flow in the story. So the Black Tent, so far, it's got it, but it flows in the story because it needs to. We're dealing with very, very unique characters. I mean, it's, if you're going to make it true to life, in any way, shape, or form, I mean, a man and woman get together, they're heterosexual, what happens. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's very inherent in it. And I think for that's this script here, in an early meeting with one fellow that came in, had no money on this. This was just somebody coming in, and he said, well, I don't like the nudity. And I said, but do you understand the people? Do you understand these characters? I had to sit him down and explain everything. He still didn't get it. But again, this guy was no money. This was just somebody, talking. So then when I had showed the script to one producer, he read it and he said, you absolutely have to have it. He said, this character, it wouldn't make any sense if she didn't do nude. She's an exhibitionist. That's what they do. They're still out there. There's still real people out there that are. So, I mean, you're not taking anything and making an exaggeration. I've encountered them. You know, I've encountered several just the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. Listen, I thought it was some kind of PC culture thing or something,
Yeah.
and like, I don't know. Yes, listen, back in the '80s when I grew up, you know, there was, you watch a Friday the 13th, and it was just some random tits for no reason at all. It was just fun to see, you know. But like, you can incorporate a sex scene or just nudity into a movie, and it can still flow with the story.
And I think in the Friday the 13th movies, I mean, you got kids at camp, you know,
Yeah.
in the summer. I mean, if you don't
Yeah.
have to, think something wrong there. You know, I think something would be wrong there. I think then I'd have to really, really start doubting the movie, you know, at that point. And that's what I said with this one here, Black Tent. Travis, we've been so close so many times, you know, and that sucks because you'll get somebody, you'll sit them down, you'll explain the picture, they'll be excited, they'll be ready, you'll be starting to move, and then all of a sudden, boom, you know, something happens, you know, and the money, you know, didn't come through for one reason, you know, something didn't happen, their money didn't come through. Their wife didn't want them to invest. That was our last problem we had.
Mm.
We had one guy all set.
Yeah, I remember that. That was ridiculous.
What's that?
That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous when you told me that she said that. It's like, well, you know, invest. We'll put her in a picture. She told me.
And the thing is, his wife didn't want it, and he had already began to invest into the picture. So we had some things going. We had a set model done. You know, we had brand integration we were working on. We were getting ready to hire an independent film producer to come on to help us get a pre-sale deal, to help us out with the tax credits, you know. And then all of a sudden, you know, the wife said no, and
Boom.
everything just stopped.
Now, Scott, you've been doing this a long time, and a lot more indie filmmakers, they're going the crowdfunding route to fund their projects. Is that something that you thought about doing, or is that something that you think is a successful technique?
I know it's successful for some people. You're looking at, you know, I mean, you're going to have a lot of time that's going to pass. You know, I'm in my 50s now. You know, I got a birthday coming up 1 month from today. I'm going to be another year older.
Birthday.
And I think, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think for some people, if you're looking to make, this is just if you're looking to make the movie for, if you can make the deals and you can make it pretty much micro budget, do it. You know, do it. You know, I have one friend that has an investor. However, everything he does is, when I say micro, we're talking micro. But hey, he's got one picture finishing and 3 prepping. So, you know, whichever happens to one picture, I'll have 3 more on top of it, which is nice, you know. But again, he's much younger than I. So it really depends on what you want to do. And I mean, my training, Travis, comes from the 90s. And I was very fortunate because I was friends with Anthony Hickox. I don't know. Do you remember him?
Nice. No. Mm-hmm.
A Hellraiser 3, Warlock.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought you were talking about, yeah.
Waxwork too. And he passed away a year and a half ago, you know, and he died fairly young. You know, he was in his 60s. And I got very lucky. I had an interview with him when I was in college. He gave me not only that, I was actually able to speak to his mother, who was the Academy Award-winning film editor for Lawrence of Arabia. So talking to the two of them really like lit the fuse with me, and I was like, "No, this is what I want to do," you know. And my first feature that I was in was The In Crowd back in 1988. Filming here, I actually ended up getting a little part, no dialogue, but they moved me all the way to the front, 6 feet in front of the camera. If you watch that movie, you can't miss me. I mean, I'm 38 years younger than I am now. You know? So, I got to meet the director, Mark Rosenthal. I got the director of photography. I think his name was Tony Richardson. He was married to Jacqueline Smith at the time. We were able to take pictures with them, you know, on the set and all. And I met Jennifer Runyon, who she had just done Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters. You know, in the beginning, that was fun. You know, getting to meet, you know, Jennifer Runyon, you know, at that time. When you're 14 years old and she's like, I don't know, 23 or whatever.
I bet you. I bet you that was exciting. I bet you that was exciting.
That was a highlight. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
So what's going on right now in New Jersey? New Jersey, when it comes to indie horror, I mean, it is fucking booming. I mean, of course, you got the Terrifier, the Damien Leone, who's making millions of dollars off of indie horror filmmakers. I mean, you got Mario Soretti, I think his name is, who done the Human Hibachi. You got Franklin Correa. You got so many fucking New Jersey indie horror filmmakers.
And here's another thing, Travis. That movie, the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown, that was filmed right here at Cape May, the end of the movie. And that's
Really?
10 minutes from my house right here. And Spielberg is coming here in a couple weeks to film his new UFO movie. So they're filming literally right in my backyard.
New Jersey is like, when it comes to horror, it's booming. Now, my favorite one of my favorite horror movies of all time was actually filmed in Cape May. It is called The Prowler.
Oh yes, yeah. And I'll tell you a story. I remember being in the car with my mother coming back from somewhere on Route 9, and they were filming the opening sequence, the double homicide on the gazebo there. And I remember her saying, "Oh, look at that over there! I think they're and the big lights, the big gigantic lights they had back then and all." And I remember riding past and saying that as they were, as they had. That was pretty cool.
Yes, I bet it's a movie that most people do not know about, and it's a great horror movie. And if you like old school slashers with a twist, The Prowler is definitely one of them.
Oh yeah, good slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly filmed at the end of Cape May.
Yes, but so we know about New York and know about LA, but why do you think New Jersey is booming when it comes to indie horror?
Well, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of great locations here. I mean, you saw the location where I filmed Lost in the Night, the ranch there. You saw, it's funny. You know how many people said to me, "Where did you go to film this movie?" They think it's somewhere out in the Midwest. And I said, "No, it's Goshen, New Jersey. It's 20 minutes from here." They can't believe it. You go to Cape May, you have a Victorian atmosphere. You come to West, you have a seashore atmosphere. Everywhere you go here, you have a different look, Yeah. So you can find it basically wherever you go. Like I said, Tommy Graff is filming, his picture in Estelle Manor. Most of his movie is going to be a lot of CGI. I mean, that's what he does. He's a CGI guy making his, directorial writer, producer, DP, doing it all. It's a very, he's a perfectionist. Very good. I'm very interested in seeing this picture. When it's done and it's finished, he's had a lot of really good. He's got Lynn Lowry in it, from Shivers, and has Debbie Rochon in it, and he's got myself and Ivy Dominique and Silver and Jackie Alberto and all these nice people that I got to work with in the picture. So I mean, sometimes it's nice to just it's so different to just be hired to be an actor on someone else's set. I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't have to worry about any of the camera, the lighting, how they're saying it, how it has to look. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You just go on and just do your thing, and that's it's cool. You know what I mean? I've had two of them so far. This is the second one. So, and then I've got an offer for a third one I think it's in April or May. I still have to look at the offer to see if it's worth it or not, but I think it probably is.
And I'm gonna ask you another question. I'm gonna ask I got a question. I got a question for him. Now, listen. When it comes to screenwriting, have you ever had another filmmaker like, you know what? I want that screenplay, but in order for them to take it, they want to chop up your fucking work and to the point where it doesn't even feel like the same story.
So that almost happened on the Black Tent, and that does happen. And my thing is, I always say this: I don't really understand why an independent producer would come on an independent project and want to take your script and change it over. I understand why directors in Hollywood do it. They have so many pictures that never get produced that when they get something that's greenlit, they're thinking, okay, how can I get my stuff in there? That's what they're trying to do. So if it's a Hollywood thing, and probably even Netflix and Hulu, because they're the new big studios now, I think a lot of times when that happens in those pictures, that's the reason. An independent film, I'll say this up front without mentioning names, all right? The one fellow that came in to potentially invest, he came in with a million ideas, okay? I did feel that the screenplays I'd written needed something else a little bit more. I knew this guy for a long time, and I had no problem coming on and writing with him, okay? But I'm going to say this. There was a couple things he did when he was writing that when I read it, I said, no, we can't do that. And he didn't understand why. And one of them was, I said, you don't understand our monster. I said, our monster would never do this, what you read. Well, why not? I explained. Didn't want to hear it. He wanted it like that. And I said, if that's how you want it, this is how much it's going to cost if you want to change it, because you're going to lose the essence of the character, which at that point, his wife said no. So he couldn't invest any further anyhow. So you know what happened to that, right? That got changed completely to what it should be. It's very important. When it's your project, I haven't been in a situation where somebody came in and said, I love it, here's money, a lot of money, I want the script. I haven't been in that situation. I did get hired to build a script from the ground up with a couple of producers. That was a different situation. Okay. And even this one that I'm writing right now, the vampire one, which I can't say much about, we have gone through 3 different stories that we put together outlines that didn't work. So for one reason or another, one guy came in, had an idea. We listened. He wrote it up. We read it. We spoke. No one liked it. Somebody else came along, gave us a dozen pages. I worked with this guy for a little bit. He went and did his own thing with it. We read it. We scratched our heads. We had questions. He said it was incomplete. I said to him, how do you feel this is going to complete? He didn't know. So that went out the door. So the producer and I, we're the current producers, the executive producer. We got together and sat down and we were hammering out a new story. We were this close on that, but we still said it's not there. But now we're finally, after, believe it or not, 8 months it took to figure out the story for us. But we want to do it right. We've got a title. We've got a great story. We've got a phenomenal set that when you see it, it's going to be jaw dropping. We actually have one of the sets constructed. We did a lighting and everything. And believe me when I tell you, man, this is exciting. I mean, really, if you want, once we put the set together, and we had a couple of people come in and just do some acting, you know what I mean, just to get an idea, and that's how we really figured these stories don't work. We did that. We filmed it. We looked at it. And we said, man, we could really have something great here. So now we've got to think of something awesome to write so that this thing can just leap right out and grab people by the nose, because that's what we want. That's what we want for this picture.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. I mean, I'm writing the script now. I've talked to a couple of people that are from Hollywood, that are from New Jersey originally. Okay.
Nice.
And I luckily bumped into them and had conversation and gave them my card, and they said, yes, we want to talk, So yeah, it's exciting. Right now I'm writing the script, and it's coming along. It's a slow procedure right now because there's some bumps in there. I'm writing with a very loose outline, which I usually don't do. I usually have one, but like I said, we're doing this. It's the last couple projects, Travis, have been very different from writing on spec like I normally do.
Now, because I mean, the reason I asked that question, because listen, I've never written a screenplay or anything, but I can imagine, once you're a screenwriter and you hand that script or that screenplay to the filmmaker, they can do whatever the fuck they want, and then now you have this great story, and now it's something completely different, and you're like, I'm fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big. I'll tell you a story. There was I had started shooting a short film a few years ago when COVID was happening, and I did not have a very good crew, and they were trying to take it they went with it. But since I owned the project, I was able to stop it. So I did story. But yeah, you got to be very careful. And you got to be very careful who you pick. For your. I mean, they're all learning experiences. Everything's a learning experience. Like Lost in the Night was cool because that was my first time going out. Just myself and my DP Andrew, who was my DP editor, AD It was just the two of us behind the camera, and then I had to jump behind the camera to act. I wasn't supposed to play Lloyd. That was supposed to be a friend of mine, and then at the last minute he couldn't do it. So it was delay the shooting for him, which I kind of figured he wasn't going to do it. No matter how many times he talked about being an actor for the past 35 years, he just, I think, wants to talk about being an actor and not really be one. So, I think they're out there, and I met a few.
Yeah. I have to.
So I figured, you know what? I'll just do it. I made sure I had somebody else that I could trust that day to go behind the camera. We did 2 takes. We did 1 take. 80. It was 90 degrees and 90% humidity, and it was the take turned out good. The take was good, but we decided give it more. Go back, redo it under a better circumstance, and it turned out, all right. Did you like the scene with me as the uncle talking to?
I did.
Yeah, I get a lot of.
You did a great job. That's why when you hopped on, I was like, "Oh, this is one of the actors from the movie." And so I didn't put the 2 and 2 together.
It's supposed to be. That's the trivia. The trivia is I wasn't supposed to be. I was just
you had to.
At the school, all I was going to do when they're at the school, I had written a part for a teacher to come out and say, "What are you kids doing out here?" And that was supposed to be me. That's it. That's all it was supposed to be. But then when my friend Mike bailed out on us at the last minute, then, things changed. So, got it. And that's another thing, too. Sometimes when you get out there to do things, and I'm a firm believer in this, if you have a good actor or actress, and I mean a good one, not somebody that just wants to think, or someone wants to waste time. There's plenty of them. Right? But if you get a decent actor or actress and they say to you, "I have an idea. How about I do it like this? Or how about I say it like this? Or can I change the wording a little bit?" I always tell them this: fine, but get one with how I want it. This way, when I'm in editing, I can see my choices and I can choose. But I don't just want your version of it. Sometimes an actor will come in, like with Like Hay, and I got really lucky. I had some really good actors, and I had Jeff Shark, I had Kevin Ebner, I had Kevin Shelley, Now, Ebner and Shelley, I used them, and actually Jeff Sharkey, I used all 3 of them again for 5 Losers. I carried them over, And of course, Icon is biting at the bits, to get his debut here as the tap dancer in the black tent. I told him I've got the scene. He'll have flickering colored lights and everything else. But he keeps insisting that he has 2 very beautiful leggy women with him, and I tell him, well, that's not really in the script.
But he's going to make it happen, though. He's going to make it happen. Now, all right. So I got a question. For the both of you. I'm going to ask Icon first. Icon, right now, listen, when it comes to making indie horror, making films, period, it's a lot easier, compared to back in the day when Scott first started, because people are using their fucking iPhones. Their cameras are less expensive. You can do your own editing with a computer. And it's also a lot easier to get your movies out there for people to see with Tubi and streaming services. But do you feel like this is also watering down the product as well?
In a way, it kind of does. I'll explain my answer on that. I mean, you mentioned, I mentioned Tubi, you mentioned Netflix, you mentioned Spotify, you mentioned a lot of those others. As an independent film director, in a way, it's a good thing because there's so many platforms you can put your product out on, and also in a way, it's a curse because if you're being seen on Tubi and you're being seen on this format and this format and this format, it would water down the product a little bit because I mean you're overexposing yourself. Instead of being on 1 or 2 formats, you're on 5 or 6, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But everybody's like going, okay, I saw this on Tubi. Why is it here? I want to see something else.
Scott?
Well, first off, they don't just take your movies, just so that you know. That doesn't, and I mean, if you just want to, your movies are cheap. You can make them cheap enough. I guess you could just give them away, But if you're trying to make money on it, you've got to watch your deal, because the contract that you sign with a distributor or whatever, you may not get any money. Distribution is not as easy as it appears. Yes, you can self-distribute. You've got to advertise, so you need to have an advertising budget, if you're going to do it. If you want to monetize it, you should have some, you need to have some cash flow for advertising. I would say, I don't know, a couple $1,000, if you want some kind of an advertising campaign. I know I think the average is what, $10,000, what they say these days. I think that's the average. Yeah. A good marketing campaign. However, if you're making movies, again, you got to look at your budget. If you're making a movie for $300,000, obviously, you're going to want that $10,000 marketing campaign.
Yeah,
okay. One of the things that like I said, the industry's changed so much. It's a new economy. And like we said, there's no film anymore, so you don't have to buy all those rolls of film.
Yep.
You get a hard drive. Everything's on the hard drive. You organize the folders. You pull from the folders. You put it into whether you're going to use Final Cut, if you're going to use Adobe, whatever your editing software is going to be. And you can do some really super stuff with it, but you have to know what you're doing. Like with lighting, you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing. If somebody doesn't know what they're doing with lighting, well, as we all have found out, then your movie's going to have some lighting issues. Might be hot in a scene, might be a little too dark in others. But again, if you're doing short films, the purpose of a short film is for you to go out, get familiar with your equipment, and do it and get a learning experience together. All right, you're better off going out there and trying and doing something, because then that's your best education.
And I'm not saying it's easier, but it's easier to get your work out there. But I mean, let's say you make a good film, right? You make a great film like Lost in the Night, and it's up on Tubi. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure you have all been on Tubi and you've seen some bad fucking movies. Like how the fuck did this even get on here? Like the lighting's bad, the acting's bad, the movie just cuts off halfway, and you're like, well, how the fuck did this even get accepted?
Yeah.
But don't you think that with more and more of those kinds of films getting on those streaming services, it's going to scare people away from streaming services, and in that meantime, your movie could fall into that into that pool.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's why you've got to establish like your brand. Like my production company, Marksman Entertainment. So far, it's just been the 3 pictures with several other scripts in various stages of development. But I always try to, first thing important, what John Carpenter said after he had made Halloween, the script is everything. The script.
It is.
So that's another reason why we're talking about I brought up the vampire picture of the new one. And I said to you, one guy came in, he had what he thought was a great idea. We read it. We looked at each other. It's not a great idea. Another fellow came on. I had worked with him for a little bit. He brought in this pretty good outline. 10, 12 pages. But we read it. We didn't even get halfway through it, and we were confused. So right there, we had questions. And then it just came to a point where I said to Nick, who's going to be the executive producer with me, you know what? Why don't we just do what I normally do? Why don't I just come up with a story? Why don't I just write it and then we'll go from there? He's, well, no, I'm a storyteller. I want to be involved with the story. I said, okay, this is really going off. So he came through it over a few days. and we had lunch and breakfast together, and we hashed out a few things, wrote stuff down. I typed it up, and again, like, same thing. He came in, he said, "I don't like this and this. I don't like that. I don't like this." And I said, "Yeah." I said, I think the biggest problem of it is I said, it's hard for not being a writer, not being the flow. I said, "I'll tell you what. Trust me. Let me get started. Let me get the first draft going." I said, "Okay." So that's where we are, and it's turning out pretty good. I'm only about 15 pages in, but it's because I'm working with a very, very loose outline.
All right. I got one last question, and Icon is gone. But listen, I was going to ask him a question, but Scott, I'm going to ask you. Well, okay. All right. I'm going to start off with Icon. When it comes to rituals, like for me, like, well, before I start my YouTube channel, I like to grab some fucking soda, smoke a cigarette, and it gets me mentally prepared for my interview. Icon, when it comes to you and your radio show, what are some rituals that you have before you hop on air? And Scott, when you're writing that screenplay, what is some rituals do you like to have?
Well, I'll tell you, it's actually kind of a weird ritual. What I do is I get to the studio, usually 2.5 hours before we start our show. And what I will do is I will sit in the studio. I'll actually take a nap for 60 minutes to refresh myself, get all the thoughts out of my head from what I did during the day, and then I focus on the show. And then I kid you not, I will have one full Monster Energy drink, the green stuff, just before I hit air to give me that extra boost of energy.
Nice.
For me, when I'm going to write, you ready for this one? First thing I have to do, it's kind of an interesting thing. I have to know the night ahead of time, especially if I'm starting a script, because I definitely want to load up on a lot of work.
Yeah.
Bodily and a mental cleanse, And when I get up, the first thing I'm going to do is really stretch. I mean, almost to the point I hurt myself. That's the stretch, okay? And then it's going to be 1 cup of coffee finished, and then I'll be sitting here where I'm perched now with about 3 of these. These are 32-ounce Coca-Cola glasses full of water and another cup of coffee. And I write. I just literally, I turn the phone off. I turn Facebook off. I turn everything off where only my mother can get me. That's it. Same person.
So no music, no anything?
Sometimes.
And what is your go-to coffee?
What's that?
What is your go-to brand of coffee?
I like Folgers and Maxwell House equally.
That reminds me. The best thing about Folgers, their slogan: "The best part of waking up is just waking up."
Well, right now it's Folgers, but I'll tell you the truth. When I was a kid, the first cup of coffee I ever had given to me by my aunt was Maxwell House.
Same here, Maxwell House.
Oh yeah, me too. My grandmother loved Maxwell House.
And I do too. And it's funny, I was off it for years, and then maybe about 5 years ago, it was on sale, the big one at the store. And I picked it up, and I swear to both of you and everyone listening, when I made that cup of coffee, that Maxwell, I hadn't had it in about 10, 15 years. Drinking that cup of coffee was like rediscovering coffee all over again. It was, really, for me.
That's how it was for me.
Do you ever do the Keurig thing?
The what?
Do you ever do the Keurig thing?
I have a Keurig. Yes, that's what I use.
Yeah. At least the one thing about a Keurig is you just put the little cup in there, close the thing, hit a button. I can do that. When it comes to brewing a regular cup of coffee, I'd probably just burn down the kitchen. So I'm glad that they invented the Keurig.
Wait, close to my age. Didn't you grow up with the percolator? Didn't you grow up with the percolator?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My grandmother tried to teach me how to use it, but after my first time, she's like, "Don't ever touch that again, ever."
I was taught that damn thing when I was 13 years old because they didn't even want to go to the other, like the drip. They didn't like the drip. It was the percolator until I was 22 or something like that. Whenever the Keurig came out. When the Keurig came out, it was finally a switch. But, it was always the percolator.
All right, guys. So listen, Icon, I'm gonna start with you. Where can everyone find you, my friend?
Well, you can find me on Facebook under Icon Helmrast. You can find me under Facebook Attitude Era Monday Live Monday. And you can listen to our show on 89.1 Kens FM, kensfm.com, Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. We always have 3 guests. It's usually me, Matthias, the Modern Nightmare, and the director, Scott Hand. And we always have a great time. Last night we had Macho Camacho Jr. on, which was really interesting.
Nice.
He forgot that we were supposed to be PG, unfortunately. So I'm waiting for that FCC letter. But but other than that, we always have. And real quick here, Scott Hand will probably remember the best show that we ever did was on April 1st when everybody thought we were just kidding around because it was the 1st of April, when we had James Gandolfini's son Michael on with us. We had Bobby the Brain Heenan's daughter on with us, and we had Al Pacino's stepmom on with us. And the funniest thing that she said was how her stepson was 20 years older than her, which was just mind blowing.
Yeah. Wow. Who do we have anybody big on Monday that we can tell the audience here?
Well, well, I'll tell you what, in a couple Mondays, we're actually kind of branching out a little bit. We're actually starting to have board game inventors. In 2 weeks, we're going to have he invented the board game called Broken Computer. And basically what you do is you go around the board, you try and put together a computer and make it work. It's kind of like a Monopoly thing, so it's kind of cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. That would be fun.
And Scott, where can we find you, my friend? And your work.
Instagram, all small letters, Hand_Scott. Or on Facebook, I am under Scott Hand. All right. They're pretty much, I have a LinkedIn account as well. I don't use it very much. Same thing. I'm on Snapchat also, but I don't use it very much either. So mostly it's Instagram or Facebook.
And where can we find your films?
Well, Lost in the Night, as you know, is on Vimeo. All right. That one's there on Vimeo. They are all going into film festivals. They've all been entered. I'm waiting to hear back for a few different ones, for all of them, even Lost in the Night. So they'll be appearing in film festivals, hopefully this spring, summer, and fall.
Love it. Guys, listen, always been a blast. It's always blast having New Jersey filmmakers on because they're always fucking fun.
Always.
And I'm gonna hit you up because I'm actually in New Jersey a lot. Even though I'm an Eagles fan, go Birds. But I'm in New Jersey.
You're one of the best quarterbacks, in my opinion, that the Eagles ever had. Carson Wentz came from North Dakota State, my college.
Nice. And it sucks what happened to him too. I mean, he was fucking having an MVP season, and then boom. And then
I'll always despise Nick Foles because Carson Wentz got him there, and then Nick Foles rolled the curtails, and unfortunately, they put a statue of Nick Foles in front of the stadium instead of Carson Wentz. But yeah.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. All right, everyone, listen. Please go ahead and get over to Vimeo and check out Lost in the Night, and follow these two gentlemen on social media, as well as listen to Attitude Era Live Monday. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce. That's Scott Hand, and that's the Icon. We'll see you next time. By the way, guys, listen. Since your channel is PG, you guys can say a swear word each. Go ahead. I'll start. Fuck. Go ahead.
Oh shit!
What?
Take care.